The Rams have signed Jimmy Garoppolo. Was that the right move? That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've been covering LA sports for over a decade. SI, Dodgers Nation, 24/7 Sports. And as always, I'm joined by the Rams pre-half and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He just finished his 8th season covering your Los Angeles Rams. The People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. Now, if you haven't yet, do us a huge favor and subscribe to the Locked On Rams YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit that like button. Just past 12,000 subscribers. If you want your takes, what is your reaction to the Rams signing Jimmy G? More thoughts on Aaron Donald's retirement? Let us know down below. And on today's show, we're breaking down the Rams signing of Jimmy G. Was it the right move? Some Rams fans don't like it. And we have some more news on when the Rams found out that Aaron Donald was retiring. All that more on this episode of Locked On Rams. But first, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Now, Travis, I have been out for a couple days. I just want to tell the fans, if they don't know, I am in Korea covering the Dodgers opening series against the San Diego Padres. I am not on a leave of absence because Aaron Donald did announce his retirement. Okay, maybe it's a little bit of both here. I did crumble to my knees in a Walmart when I found out the news. So just want to get that out of the way. We'll talk about Jimmy G, but definitely crushed, definitely shocked. We'll talk about that in a second. But Travis, so much happening in the Rams universe, and the next biggest one is Jimmy Garoppolo is the Rams' new backup quarterback. The Rams signed him to a 1-year deal. And, of course, I like to get into the numbers a lot on this show. But first, I just want to point out this. Look, I see some Rams freaking out, right? Jimmy Garoppolo, he's a 49er and all this and that. Look, an average to bad starting quarterback is a good to top 5 to 10 backup quarterback. So just want to get that out of the way. I like the move of having Jimmy G, a serviceable quarterback that can run the offense as the Rams backup QB.
If somebody's genuinely put off by the fact that he played for the San Francisco 49ers, that might be the dumbest thing I've ever heard, because who cares, right? He doesn't play for him anymore. He plays for the Rams now. He played for the Raiders. He played for the New England Patriots. I mean, guys move around in this league, and if you're only going to pick guys from teams that you don't have a personal dislike towards, you're not going to have very many guys to pick from. I love it. I think this was about the best that you could possibly do in a backup situation, that this is exactly the sort of player that you're looking for to be a backup quarterback. And I've heard the criticisms. I heard him on my radio show that, oh, he was bad with the Raiders. Yeah, he's not a great starting quarterback, but he also isn't a terrible starting quarterback. He took a team to the Super Bowl. They nearly beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in that Super Bowl. That was a very tight game. This is a guy that is exactly what I've always talked about when it comes to these sorts of things, which is he's NFL competent. If he has to play a few games in the NFL, he'll be fine. He's able to absorb Kyle Shanahan's offense, which means he's going to be able to absorb Sean McVay's offense. This is a guy that doesn't have any aspirations of upseating or unseating, I should say, Matthew Stafford as the starting quarterback. If Matthew Stafford has a bad game or two, people aren't going to be jumping up and down and saying, "Gimme Jimmy G." That's not what this is. What this is a guy that if he has to play a game, like we saw last year in Green Bay when Brett Rippon came in, that can play well, give you a chance to win. And I said this on my radio show today, and I'll say it right here. If Jimmy G comes into the game, are you dead? The answer is no, you're not. You have a chance to still win that game, and that's what you want out of your backup quarterback is competency and giving you a chance to win, and Garoppolo absolutely does that.
Absolutely, Travis. And want to touch on your point about any Rams fan that doesn't like the signing because he was a 49er is nuts. Hey, any Rams fan that lived through Bryce Perkins and Wolford and Ripon that doesn't like this signing is absolutely nuts. Okay. And to your point as well, look, if he's playing the Packers game last season, they have a pretty decent chance of winning that football game. And also you touched on some of the success he did have in this league. He's 43-20 in the regular season as a starter. He's 4-2 in the postseason. He's been to a Super Bowl, 2 conference championships. Now, I know a lot of people wanted Carson Wentz, but how many times has Carson Wentz done that? Let me answer that. None, right? So, and you look at the price. I mean, Carson Wentz, a little younger, has a little more upside, but I think what you want from a backup quarterback is someone that doesn't have a lot of volatility, right? The variance is not always going to be there. I think with Carson Wentz, yeah, he played well in Week 18, and that's the only week I do want to see Jimmy Garoppolo playing for the Rams is Week 18, because that means that they've already clinched and Matthew Stafford's getting rest. But like you said, he can go out there, he can get the job done in a pinch. And I don't think this is a situation where, okay, you're bringing in someone because he's not going to help this team. I think that he's definitely solved what they were looking for. It's just tough, though. I mean, losing AD and signing Jimmy G on the same day, that's just a weird feeling.
The timing of it is bad, and we can get into that in a second. But I want to go back. Give me that number again. That what it was his record as a starting quarterback. It sounded like it was almost 2-1 to the good.
Yeah, 43-20.
Okay, so better than 2-1 to the good.
Yeah.
What am I missing?
I mean, yeah.
What part? Because he was a 49er? Because he beat you over and over again? Nobody likes that.
8-0 against the Rams. 8-0 against the Rams.
This is my point. He wins twice as often as he loses. And here, the situations are incredibly similar. That I understand. Oh, well, he had Christian McCaffrey, and he had Deebo Samuel, and he has Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle and all. Yeah, okay. The Rams have a ton of weapons, too. The Rams are going to throw Kyren Williams at it. The Rams are going to throw Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp and Demarcus Robinson at this. Who knows what comes in the draft? The Rams have a high-level offensive mind as their head coach, just like the 49ers did. I don't see where this breaks down as all. I think what it is that people are caught up in the what kind of money he made in San Francisco and in I almost said Oakland, in Las Vegas. Who cares? The Rams aren't paying that money. Was he worth that giant deal? Maybe, maybe not. I kind of tend to lean more towards, yeah, he was, as far as the San Francisco component goes. This is exactly what you're looking for. Is he a pro? Will he be prepared? Can he step in on short notice? Will he be ready to go in the event that, let's say that Matthew Stafford thing. Remember how lucky they got. They missed one game because he missed the Green Bay game. Then they had a bye. Then they didn't play it, obviously, until the following. So he basically got 3 weeks off and only missed one game. What if that happens at a point in the season where you're not on your bye week and you got to play Jimmy G or your backup a couple of weeks? We saw what Brett Rippon looked like. Doesn't work. Jimmy G will work. The Rams might not win every game he plays, but they got a chance to win every game he plays, not unlike what Baker Mayfield did with a much worse team than the one that Jimmy G is going to step into if, in fact, he needs to play.
Yeah, 100%. I do think that they will probably try to draft a quarterback again, and hopefully they'll try to make that work out, because Stetson Bennett did not work out because those first 2 games are going to be suspended for those PEDs. And I think, to your point, as far as Rams fans and just looking at this signing is, look, they see the future at this position. They saw some of the other names out there. I mean, you had Justin Fields. He ends up with the Steelers. Kenny Pickett, he goes to the Eagles.
10 times better than Justin Fields. Garoppolo is infinitely better than Justin Fields. Justin Fields is not good. Justin Fields' team lost games way more often than they won games. Jimmy G's team wins game way more often than they lose games. This is what I'm saying. They got maybe the best guy available. I get it that it feels weird because of where he's coming from and what he costs. This is the best option available at that spot.
And here's the thing. Look, this is how it is in the NFL. Okay, starting quarterbacks are great backup quarterbacks. It's that simple. And also, I'm pretty sure Sean McVay said, hey, tell me everything you know about Shanahan's offense that I don't know, right? And he has experience with Mike LaFleur. He is a tried and true NFL quarterback. So I don't hate this move at all, especially coming on the heels of the AD retirement and kind of the expectation level for this team. I think he's solid in the role that he's going to be asked to fulfill. So I'm not mad about it at all. But we're going to talk about, we might take a little bit more Jimmy G in a second here, but we're going to talk about Aaron Donald and when he informed the Rams and Sean McVay of his retirement. We're going to talk a little more AD. That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right. No cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. The offer is good through April 30. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees applies. And now for some legal information. Claim as of Q1 validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker dealer.
And we are off running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, a shout out to our every listeners out there watching and listening, even in Korea. I was telling Travis before the show yesterday at the Sky Dome, I ran into a fan that had a Shohei Ohtani Dodgers jersey and a Los Angeles Rams hat here in Seoul, Korea. He came up. He's a fan of Locked On Rams. So, hey, drop those comments down below if you're watching this, because I don't know if I got your name, but thanks again.
That's our people, D-Mac. Dodger fans and Rams fans in Korea. Come on, man. We're blowing up in Seoul. I love it.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Hey, we got to get the billboard out here like we did in LA. Maybe we'll do it in Seoul, hopefully. I mean, we'll see what happens. We'll get our own cheering squad, hopefully, like the Dodgers do, because that'd be really cool. Now, we're talking about AD, but honestly, Travis, I want to pick up a little. We haven't done this in a while, but kind of pick it up on the first segment because I feel like a little more unpack on Jimmy Garoppolo. So here's the thing. Yes, Carson Wentz, you could have looked at as someone that at his age, and he's in the backup role. Maybe he is the heir apparent to Matthew Stafford one day. Me personally, I want to go balls to the wall with Matthew Stafford until the wheels fall off, knowing that, look, if Matthew Stafford is out, this team has zero chance of winning a Super Bowl, zero chance of contending. So that is what it's going to hinge on. You need to have an offense that's scoring a ton of points, that has ball control with the retirement of Aaron Donald. So I almost think it's a little bit of a moot point.
Well, I don't know about that. I look, if he's got to play 13 games, yeah, it's probably not an ideal situation. But what you're looking for is it's a bridge. It's get you to the point where Matthew Stafford can come back. And I think that the fact that this is the guy that they targeted, that this is the guy that they went to, speaks to how they feel about this team. Because I think part of the reason they went in the last year's season with Bryce Perkins, with Brett Rippon as their backup quarterback and Stetson Bennett as kind of a project along the way. They didn't think they were going to be any good, or they certainly didn't think that they were going to be 10 wins good and have a chance to go to the playoffs. And even so, maybe win a playoff game, because that was they got into the playoffs by a fairly narrow margin, and it could have been the difference between that Green Bay game or not. Now they know going into the 2024 season that this is going to be a really good team, or at least a team that has very high expectations and aspirations, and they're not willing to just punt on a position that's so important. Like you said a second ago, Doug, hopefully he never plays, but the odds are he's going to play. Now, you hope he doesn't have to play much, but let's say he takes a shot to the head. Let's say he's in concussion protocol for a half. It's 17-17, middle of the third quarter. You want to see a guy like Rippon come in. You want to see a guy like Jimmy G, who's started 50 games in this league, 60, 65 games in this league. He's not going to panic. He's going to be prepared. And Carson Wentz, he did fine for the Rams. That was great. I'm glad he was there. It made you feel a lot better than what they'd had there before. Garoppolo has had a far superior career to Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz has bounced around a lot. He didn't even get a starting job. Jimmy G is the first time he's been in a backup role since he got that starting job after he left New England. This is a guy that is a very highly competent NFL player. Is he a great player? No. Is he as good as you could hope for as QB2? I think he is.
Yeah, he's not a top 32 quarterback in the NFL, but he could be a top 5 back. I mean, kind of my point for the Carson Wentz I was trying to make, though, is, look, Carson Wentz is 31. I just don't think the timeline matches up with Matthew Stafford for how many years he has left of being a Super Bowl contender. If you want to go way young as your heir apparent, we're talking about a possible Zach Wilson trade, kind of floating some ideas about a much younger guy like a Trey Lance as your backup. I can go that direction, but I'm just saying, as far as Carson Wentz, if he's going to take a backup job, knowing he's going to be a backup for the next 2 years, there's something wrong with his career. I mean, he's got to look at guys like Baker Mayfield. They're saying, I want to get out there and get another opportunity. So that to me would be a red flag. But yeah, look, think about Jimmy G. He turned into Joe Montana when he played the Rams. Hopefully he can have a ton of success. But let's shift gears, little two-topic, one-topic thing, and get a little quick stuff on Aaron Donald, because I'm sure we're going to be talking about Aaron Donald a lot this offseason, even though he is not going to be playing next year. I heard your interview on ESPN with Jordan Rodriguez where you guys discussed the possibility of him coming back. And I loved her point that she made about, hey, you have to make them miss it, right? It almost was the case for a Sean McVay or some of these other guys that come back during the season. Look, for me with Aaron Donald, I've always said, this is someone who's already beaten the video game and he's just exploring the map on story mode. This is someone who is in the conversation for the best defensive player of all time. And look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I saw LT in his prime, but with these eyes right here, Travis, that's the best and most dominant defensive player I have ever seen and likely will ever see.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to tell you you're crazy, Doug. I did see LT and I did see him in his prime. And if forced to pick, I think I would take Taylor. But if you had the first pick and took Taylor, I'd be okay getting AD with the second pick. It's that close. Look, I don't think he's coming back, but here's what I'll say for sure. How many years did it take before we were 100% sure that Andrew Whitworth wasn't coming back, right? It takes a couple. And to Jordan's point that she came on the Travis Lewa show is, I think that what's going to happen is football will start again. Camps will open again. Guys will be out there. And Aaron Donald loves football. Now, like what he told Sean McVay, I'm full. I get that. And there's not a lot that you can say to somebody like that other than give them the space that they need, give them the respect that they need, give them the time to try to work their way through it, because I have a hard time believing that somebody that was still that good and seemed to love football the way that he did. And it's easy for me to say, I don't know how much his body hurts. I don't know what it's like to play that position in the NFL for 10 years. So I don't know, but I'm not closing that door completely. I'm leaving the porch light on. And if he wants to come back and say middle of next season, the beginning of the 2025 season, you know what? I'm refreshed. I'm rejuvenated. I'm re-energized. I want to give this another shot. Come on in and let's run it back all over again.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't play baseball for the next couple of years, right? And then announces he's going to unretire like MJ did. I think for me, when it comes to him returning, look, I look at his body, his physique, he's always going to be in game shape, right? He can roll out of bed and he's going to be in better shape than every single NFL player out there. But he just looks like he's satisfied with his career. I mean, 10 years, dominant 10 years. I mean, you look at just his numbers, how dominant he still was. I mean, over the past 5 years, the NFL, the average pass rush win rate was 17% against a single blocker. Aaron Donald's pass rush win rate against double teams was 18%. Those are freakish numbers. I mean, someone that was double teamed 1,510 times, 10 times in the last 5 years. That's 135 more times than any player, and he beat 186 of those in 2.5 seconds. That's 51 more times than any other player. Chris Jones was second. So point I'm trying to make is, one, he clears Chris Jones, and two, that this is not someone who just is the quarterback. Every time he has to play an NFL game, you have a mob of people trying to stop you every single snap, and just the kind of toll that takes on someone, it has to be a lot.
It is the physical toll that it takes. And that's why, it would be very easy, I think, to look at him and say, hey, listen, you've played 10 years, you've made 10 Pro Bowls, you've been first team All-Pro 7 times, you've been Defensive Player of the Year 3 times in 10 years, you're still the very best of your position. What the heck you mean you're leaving? None of us know what it's like to have 300-pound guys wailing on you 60 times a game to prevent you from doing your job. So I'm willing to go there. I think as difficult as it's going to be to replace him on the field, and it's borderline impossible. You're just not replacing somebody like that. They just don't come around. If you get one of those in your franchise history, you're lucky, and they just had one. But I think nearly as tricky is going to be replacing the emotional center of this team, kind of the heart and soul of what he brings to the locker room, of what he does as a spiritual leader in a non-religious sense. It's just Aaron Donald didn't have to tell you to show up at the gym. Aaron Donald didn't have to tell you to work hard. Aaron Donald didn't have to say something about how you weren't doing your assignment. He just looked at you and you knew, oh man, 99's doing it. I better do it too. And I think that went to the offensive side of the ball too, that Aaron Donald set the tone for that organization. And now someone else is going to have to step into that role. And they are gigantic shoes to fill. And I don't know how you do it.
Absolutely. And McVay said after, like you mentioned, he said that Aaron Donald told him I'm full after the Rams lost to the Lions in the wild card game. He said, you have every right to feel that way. And he said that he hopes that he's going to be around a lot. But you're right. I mean, he is the Rams DNA, that toughness, that tenacity. It just absolutely permeates the entire organization. So, yeah, that's a big loss. I mean, I woke up at 3 a.m. in the morning here, and I saw that, and I was absolutely crushed to find out this news, especially when you look at the opportunity the Rams have this next season with all the options and the signings they can make. And, look, this Rams team is going to be fine because at their core, I think their run really as good, if not better than 90% of the NFL. And I think it's just a tough blow, though, and it's going to take a while to really just settle in and kind of recover and just say, okay, what's next after AD?
And you got to find some guys that can play, right? You're not going to find guys that are as good as him because those guys don't exist. You're not going to find one guy that's going to replace his production because no one guy can do it. But, you know, there's going to be a lot of pressure on Kobe Turner, a lot of pressure on Byron Young, a lot of pressure on Bobby Brown and these other guys. They're going to be back and playing in these positions to try and at least pick up some of the slack along the way. I'm sure that they're considering things in the draft and there's still free agency that could take place. There are always trades that are available to the Rams. But like you mentioned, Doug, I think the Rams are in pretty good hands with where they are and what they want to do.
For sure. And I can't wait to see that statue, him point to his ring.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one we're going to get. That has to be it. But we'll talk a lot of AD this offseason. But we're going to talk quickly about a sign the Rams did make that's going to go down possibly as one of the best sneaky signings of the offseason. That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
You shouldn't have to worry about when you're going to buy your tickets to your next big event. That's why you need to put the Gametime app on your phone. If you have the Gametime app on your phone, you're all set because it's the fast and easy way to buy tickets for everything in your area: sports, music, comedy, theater, everything near you. And with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and of course, their best price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. One of the things that unfortunately I procrastinate, right? I wait until the last minute, but not worrying about it with Gametime because you can get a great deal even an hour after the game starts. But you got to do the right thing and put the Gametime app on your phone. It is the place to find last minute deals, exclusive flash deals, sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. So what are you waiting for? Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, it's easy. Create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON for $20 off. Gametime, download it today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, Travis, we're going to continue to dive into these signings, and this one definitely was overshadowed by the AD retirement, Jimmy G signing with the Rams, but the Rams signed Kamren Curl on a 2-year deal, safety, and lots of people out there are talking about this guy as someone that could be a sneaky good signing. And one of the big reasons why he hasn't gotten kind of the praise and the hype around him is just not a lot of turnovers, not a lot of interceptions. But, I mean, this is someone who has been one of the more effective box safeties in the league, and you got him on a 2-year deal, $13 million max. I think this is a very sneaky signing for the Rams that's going to really bode well for this secondary that definitely needed a boost.
Well, yeah, there you go, right? This is an area of need for the Rams. This is something that they're going to have to throw a lot of things at. And again, you and I are going to be wearing out the everydayers because here's what I'm about to say, and this is something they're going to hear over and over from now until the start of the season, well into the beginning of the season, and probably throughout every game that the Rams play in the 2024 campaign. We don't know who does what now that Aaron Donald is gone. that everything they were able to do in the secondary, everything they were able to do on the linebacker level, everything that everyone else on that front was able to do was predicated because every single offense that they went up against was designed to deal with Aaron Donald first. Now that that's not true, now that Aaron Donald is not there, the pressure on the other guys, the pressure on the linebackers, and certainly the pressure on the secondary becomes huge, because number 99 is not back there to ruin everything and get that quarterback off his game right away. So the pressure on a guy like Kamren Curl, the pressure on Darius Williams, who is back, the pressure on everybody that's covering somebody in that secondary just went through the roof, because you're not getting pressure on the quarterback the way that you used to with Aaron Donald, and everybody, Curl included, needs to step their games up.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do as far as working different guys in. I think when you got Quentin Lake in there, you're going to see him possibly as a starting safety alongside with Curl. You could see the move when they go to their base offense to multiple wide receivers. But I think for me, what really stands out is that tackling ability. I mean, what's his biggest strength? He missed just 9 tackles.
That's awesome.
For a missed tackle rate of 7.3%. So, I mean, he's been one of the best tackling safeties in the NFL since he entered the league. And like I said, this is a move that really makes a lot of sense for this Rams team that doesn't love to pay safeties, doesn't love to overspend on that position, but they see this as someone that's a sure tackler, that gives you some physicality, gives you some size. And like I said, I mean, Russ Yeast, in comparison, he had a 21.8% missed tackle rate. That was the second highest in the NFL. So it looked like that was something they were trying to identify as a little sure tackling safety to really upgrade at that position.
Well, it's just pressure across the board, because, you know, if we were talking about this and Raheem Morris were still there, I think we all feel slightly differently. Again, you're not replacing Aaron Donald in any meaningful way, but Raheem Morris has been around the block 100 times as a defensive coordinator. Raheem Morris, former head coach in this league. Raheem Morris had the respect of everybody in the locker room, the respect of everybody in the organization. And I'm not saying that Chris Shula doesn't have it or can't earn it, but he's brand new. Right, this is his first year as a defensive coordinator, and all of a sudden he's got to go coordinate a defense that doesn't have its best player, that's going to have a lot of new faces, that's going to have to really try to figure out a new way to play football without, you know, one of the great players of all time. So not only are you losing a great player, but you're trying to break in a new coordinator along the way. There's going to be a learning curve. Rams fans need to kind of wrap their head around the fact that there's going to be a learning curve on this. Doesn't mean they can't win. Doesn't mean that they're not going to be a really good team, but they've always been led by their offense. But Aaron Donald, I don't want to say he was sneaky good, because there was nothing sneaky about it, but he covered up for so many others with his ability that we're going to get a very good idea on how good or not good everyone else is now that he's gone.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a little bit of a rude awakening, just a little bit, just because of just how dominant he was, even if these guys are really good and up to snuff. But still, a lot of talent within this team. And like I said, at some point, Aaron Donald was going to retire, and at some point, the organization was going to have to just move on as far as their franchise. But, hey, we're going to talk a lot of AD. If you're watching this, AD, reconsider, come back. Let's win another Super Bowl. Let's point to that ring finger again. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And you can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, at Travis Rogers. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.